A little while ago, we posted a video called Culture Shocks We Experienced in Ireland. Since then, we've been getting a lot of content from Ireland and Europe on our page. So we found this video that we're gonna be reacting to today. It's by Eva Zubeck, hopefully I said that right, and it's called How I See the USA as a European After 6 Months. Gonna say, we don't speak for all the Americans, obviously, and she doesn't speak for all of Europeans, but we thought this would be interesting to give our take on what she says and see what she says. Before we get into it though, just wanna say, huge shout out to Lick My Giblets, funny name. He's the first person to become a member of our channel. And if you don't know what that is, it's just a way to help us out. We're trying to get back to Europe and Ireland, and it helps us out a lot, especially with travel costs. It's only $3 a month. You can join our Passport Pals thing on YouTube. We also have a Patreon, but YouTube, I think, is just easier because it's already on the channel. So thank you so much. You're the first person to become a member of the channel.
Let's get started. So I'm Ava and I'm a travel YouTuber.
Sorry, Ava.
So for starters, everybody smiles at you in the US and people give you random compliments on the street. Like I'll be walking down the street and someone will just like shout out from the other side of the street, like, nice tattoo, man, or like, I love your hair.
Yeah, that's generally true that people will like say stuff like that to you. People are very nice here and outgoing.
Of course, if it's a big city, it might not be as much like that, but that is true. I don't know if she's being a little bit hyperbolic about shouting out across the street. I don't think anybody's ever done that to us, but people will smile at you, say hello, compliment you on certain things.
The cultural shock that I experienced are the cars. All the infrastructure is centered around cars. So, you know, in Europe, it would be really easy to like take a bus or a train somewhere. In the US,
Super true. People were laughing at us that we were freaked out that in Ireland, it wasn't car-centric, but we've grown up in America our whole lives, so it is car-centric, obviously. She mentioned, like a lot of Europeans, that public transport and public transportation over there is awesome. It sucks in America, okay? We just posted a video where we were in San Diego, and within the first few minutes of the video, the first trolley car we got on, we'll play the clip.
It was like at 2 in the morning, I'm sweating like a bitch. He goes, why are you sweating, man? He goes, did you just got done showering? Straight up, I'm like, nah, I just got done smoking, man.
But of course we do have public transportation. We have buses, trolleys, and of course trains, but everyone here usually has a car.
and like you go to a drive-through restaurant, drive-through cafe, drive-through shop, drive-through ATM.
You can see why we're not known for being really healthy here. You can just do whatever you want in your car. That's not crazy to us, the ATM thing, but I don't know if you guys will find that crazy, but we use that pretty regularly.
Some of the places that I've been to in the United States, the concept of a pedestrian doesn't really exist because there's like no sidewalks, pavements. I don't know what you call them in the States, pavements or sidewalks?
We call them sidewalks, and that's true.
Yeah, there's tons of towns where you really wouldn't see anyone walking on the sidewalk if there even is a sidewalk.
Perfect example on screen right now that she's showing.
Restaurants. What is up with the waiter just literally taking your card and then taking it somewhere? I don't know where they took it. Are they like taking it to steal my data?
That's normal to us. I don't know, some restaurants do have the card reader, or they actually have something at the table where you can pay yourself with your card. It is a little weird they take your card.
There'd be a lot of legal implications if they did something. There have been a few cases at like fast food places where they've stolen information, but at restaurants it's pretty common. They take your card. We've never had an issue with it.
One thing is, we were at a Mexican restaurant one time and they were IDing me and Joey because we were ordering, I think, margaritas or something. And they took our IDs for a while. Like, she just left with our IDs, so that was a little weird.
That was also a first. I don't think that's common.
No, that's never happened, so.
So hopefully no one's using our ID.
And then there's the tipping culture. In the United States, you know, you go to get a coffee, it costs like $4, $5, whatever. And then you're taking it away, but you're still expected to give a tip. And it's not just any tip, it's like 20%. 25%. Those are like the little options that they give you on the little iPad, you know, and if you tap like 10% or 15%, that means you're cheap.
Everything she said about the figures is totally true. I will say, of course, there's gonna be Americans that disagree with this, but I think it's kind of a general rule of thumb that if you're walking up to a counter or in a drive-through, you don't need a tip, it's not expected. Really, tips are expected if there's an actual server. So if you're at a sit-down place, that's when you are definitely expected a tip. You'll be looked down upon if you don't do it majorly by everybody. No one's gonna like hate you if you don't tip at a at a Starbucks. It does work, like as she states, it really works on a lot of people because you feel kind of forced to give a tip.
So you end up tipping 25%. In some countries in Europe, you don't even tip because I guess waiters are paid an appropriate living wage, so they don't actually need to rely on tips.
Okay, that part she's not totally wrong, but there's a little bit of a misconception there. Say what you want about the minimum wage and all that, we're not gonna get into that. However, in a lot of the more like west of the US, it's all right, okay? Like you can still say a lot, but you get minimum wage plus tips. They're not gonna lower your wage.
I was gonna say, me and Joey actually worked at Olive Garden a few years ago. I was a server, you were a busser, and I think it was 50 cents more than the minimum wage, but also plus tips.
Also, sales tax. Like again, you go to a supermarket, it says one price, but you end up paying something completely different. What's up with that?
I agree, it does suck going to the store, seeing $4.99 and then paying like $5 something. It's really easy to get used to, but it does suck not just paying what's on the sticker. Another one of those tactics that stores use, and it does work because it looks like you're paying $4.99, but really you're paying over $5. But they don't get the money, it's to the government.
So date formats. In the States, they put the month ahead of the day. How does that make any sense? Surely you should go from like smallest to biggest, right? Day, month, year.
This one's weird to me because obviously since I'm from America, I'm used to writing month, day, year. So seeing it the other way is just kind of confusing and to me looks weird, obviously because I'm not used to it.
I get why a lot of Europeans or why Europe does day, month, year. It makes sense because day is the smaller thing than month and then year. However, I will say it's just the way we say it here. We say, for instance, today is June 25th. And if we did it the other way, we'd have to say the 25th of June. Of course, it's not that much more complicated, but you just can take out the and of. Not really a right or wrong way. I get why you guys see it the other way though.
And Fahrenheit. Don't even get me started on Fahrenheit, on pounds, on feet.
I do think that Fahrenheit works pretty well in the States because we have such huge differences in weather. It'll get to like 110 in Arizona. Oops, wrong thing. That'd be insane, you'd die than that. 110 in Arizona would be about 43 degrees Celsius. And that's actually a summer here, like that's our weather. And then it can get to like -10, if not more in Nebraska. So to us, I think just visually it looks more appealing seeing, oh my God, I'm like freezing and it's -10 and then holy crap, it's so hot outside, I'm dying and it's 110.
Let's move on to some of the differences between the United States and Europe. So I drove all across the United States, right? Like kind of twice, like all the way from Texas to Alaska and then all the way from Alaska to Southern California.
That's a huge road trip, don't get me wrong. But if you look at the right side of the US, it's not even most of the US. Like she did not go to much of the Midwest. She didn't go to any of the South. She didn't go to any of the East Coast. That should give you a picture of how big our country is. Cause yeah, this is like maybe like a third of the US that she's been to.
So first of all, in the US, it's pretty common not to know how to drive, you know, stick shift, like manual. In Europe, that's basically how you learn. Everybody drives manual.
I'm glad we don't have to do that. You guys can call us dumb or whatnot, but I'm glad. You guys are probably used to it. Really, the only people that like manuals here are really people that are really into sports cars and kind of more traditional cars. It's just a lot easier not having to do anything with my left foot or my right hand. So I can just text. I'm just kidding.
And to us, obviously, we don't even need to learn this because all our cars over here are basically automatic.
It does look cool, don't get me wrong. It does kind of look cool, like, but I don't want to do that.
So I felt like people gave me extra props for like being able to drive manual, whereas I'm just like,
That is kind of a cool thing. It's almost like knowing another language here.
There's the road rules. Things that I just didn't know before coming to the United States. For example, in the US, even when the traffic lights are red, you can still make a right turn, right? In Europe, that is
true.
not the case at all. If the light is red, it is red for a reason.
I totally get why you guys do that in Europe. It makes sense. Red means stop at all times, no matter what. But it is nice when no one's coming that you can turn right here.
Also, I heard for Europe, it's mainly because the cities are so walkable that there are pedestrians, so it would be kind of difficult over there. But here, since no one's really walking around, you just gotta watch out for cars, and if nobody's going straight or turning, you can turn right.
I can't tell you how many cars have like literally just sat there behind me waiting for me to make a right turn before I realized that I was actually allowed to do it.
What she mentioned there, she's not in the wrong to not go right. However, you are gonna piss people off if your turn signal's on and you're not turning, but it's totally legal to just wait it out. It's just annoying.
They'll just, you know, sit there and like honk at me and I'll be like, what's your problem? It's red.
I don't blame her.
All way crossroads. You know the crossroads with like the like red stop sign and then that says like 4-way or all way? I still don't know what the difference is.
One's 4 and the other one's anything less or more than 4.
What it is, and this is mind-blowing, you drive up to this crossroad and then the first person that got to the crossroad has priority. So there's 4 directions, right? And then there's 4 people competing for priority. So you gotta sit there in your car while driving and like calculate, okay, that guy was first, that woman was second, then that guy.
Usually it's not that complicated. Usually it's like maybe one other car or 2, but I'm interested to hear how you guys do it over there, because to us it makes sense that the first person that gets there would then be able to go first. If you get there at the same time though, the person on the right has the right of way.
I will say though, if people are confused about who got there first, people will sometimes like flash their brights for you to go, so it's not any confusion, but pretty much it's pretty easy to tell who gets there first and to kind of know when your turn is.
I would just like literally stand there and like wait for people to go because I had no idea what the hell was going on there. In Europe, the person that's on the right always has priority. That's it.
Okay, we might sound dumb, but I don't really get how that works. So if you get to a stop sign about 2 or 3 seconds before somebody to the right does, you have to wait for them. And then on top of that, if there's a whole line of cars on the right, you just have to wait till they are finished. It seems like you'd never be able to go. Maybe that's just the explanation she said. I don't get it, but I don't know. I think it makes sense that the person to get there first would go first.
Another big difference between Europe and the United States is the sheer distance of everything. So back home, you know, you'd like drive to the next city and you'd be like, yeah, you know, I'm like 3 hours away, you know, I'm like 200 kilometers away, or whatever. In the US, like people don't even talk about driving in terms of hours. They're like, yeah, it's a 2-day drive. A 2-day drive?
That's like kind of true if you're doing a road trip, but nobody says today I'm going on a 2-day drive unless they've already planned out a road trip. Most places are gonna be a few hours. I will say we do talk about everything in hours, even though we use miles for distance here. We don't ever really say like, this city's 300 miles away. We say it in the amount of time it's gonna take to get there. But I don't think I ever just hear people casually saying, yeah, I'm driving 2 days today. That would be like, where are you going? Dang, you're doing a road trip?
Like in Europe, that is literally like the other end of the continent. In the US, you're just like driving from one state to the next. It's pretty radical.
That depends on what state you're in, because if you go to the East Coast, the top part, all of those states are super close together and you can drive through them, what, in like a day, day and a half?
You can drive through multiple on the same day if you're in certain parts. I definitely think that's a little skewed for her because she was on the West Coast, and the further west you get in America, the bigger the states get.
Yeah, California's super huge. Texas obviously takes like forever to drive through, but
Texas is insane.
Texas never ends.
True.
Moving on to some of the expectations versus reality. I really thought that I would see guns absolutely everywhere. Honestly, like to be completely honest with you, I expected that every Walmart would sell guns. It took me like 5 Walmarts before I actually got to the one that did have a gun section.
That point, that is kind of I think a huge misconception for Europeans about America. It's always in jokes or whatnot. There's like guns flying around everywhere. It depends on the state, for one, how easy it is to get guns and all that. So we live in a pretty easy to get gun state, Arizona. We have a gun store actually relatively close to us. But in California and stuff like that, California and New York, you'll definitely see a lot less gun stores. It's a lot harder to get certain permits for guns. And one reason we know it's a huge misconception is because, like she said, she thought every Walmart had one, which I think now Walmarts have been just stopping that. They're stopping the sale of guns more and more in each store. There's probably still some Walmarts, like you said, where you can find guns, but most of them don't. Another person had commented on one of our videos saying, go to the hardware store in Ireland and ask for a gun like you would in America and see how they react. And we had a reply with, our hardware stores don't sell guns here. So obviously there's a big misconception with that.
I'm not gonna lie, out of my entire life, I've never been into a gun store. I've only seen BB guns sold in Walmart, which is nowhere near a real gun. Obviously I've seen guns on police. That's it. I haven't seen people walking around with guns.
I grew up in Texas, so you will see people with like a gun in a holster, but they never really look sketchy. The sketchiest people aren't gonna be showing you a gun in a holster. It's gonna be like tucked away in their pants or something.
I expected everybody to always talk politics. So I was really worried that I would come to the US and I would have to have political conversations with people. That fortunately didn't happen. if you're from the States, the way that you have a conversation is telling of your political stance. The way that you joke about gun laws, or even just like looking at fences, you know, with like Trump 2024 or Biden something. But luckily, I think as a foreigner, you get the privilege of not having to talk about politics.
I get what she's saying. I don't really think that's true as an American, that we have to go out and talk politics with everybody.
I don't think I've ever just went out and started talking about politics to someone. I'm not just gonna go up to someone and start talking about politics and nobody's gonna come up to you and just start. Unless you're wearing like a MAGA hat or something political, maybe somebody will say something to you, but nobody's gonna randomly walk up to you and just start saying something.
Yeah, no one's gonna ask who you voted for at the store. She was right though, that there are definitely a lot more political signs, political jargon. You'll see people, as Lauren said, in MAGA hats, some type of like right-leaning shirt. You'll see left-leaning bumper stickers on cars. But if someone goes up to you and starts talking about politics, the easy thing to do is just go, yeah, and then walk away from them. That's what I do. I don't want to talk to politics to some random guy I met at the store.
Or just ignore them. I would find that really weird if somebody came up to me and said, so who'd you vote for? What do you think about what's going on? I'd be like, what?
Do you need help, sir?
I also expected all the food in the States to be absolute and utter trash, garbage. Garbage is American, trash is British.
We say both here.
I say trash, I don't say garbage.
Yeah, garbage is definitely a little more proper for us. And when we're saying something's of low quality, we'd say, man, that sucks, or it's trash.
Yeah.
We wouldn't say, that's absolute garbage.
I expected all food in the States to be trash. It wasn't. But the fact of the matter is that trash food is very, very, very cheap and very widely spread. But in the US, you can also get some of the best food in the world. It's just that it costs a little bit.
I was gonna say, a lot of Europeans I hear all the time tell us in our comments and other people that our food is trash and it's all chemicals, you're gonna die, you're gonna get killed by it, but
We're not dead yet.
and we don't eat fast food every day. Yeah, we can have chips once in a while, we don't eat that every day, but we do buy actual stuff like meat, and there is options to buy meat here without hormones in them. We have fruit and vegetables here. We have stuff like healthy stuff, okay?
Yeah, to add on to that, I was gonna say, it really isn't as rough as people make it out to seem. They make it seem like you can get a bag of chips for 50 cents, but if you want actual ingredients for food, it's gonna cost you like $100. Really, I think it's just easy to go grab a quick, crappy meal. That's what people end up doing. I think it's more about the convenience rather than the cost. If you want to actually make good food at home, you can buy ingredients, especially when you buy in bulk for multiple days of the week, you can get a pretty fair price.
Our vegetables and fruits are actually very cheap to like medium price. Obviously, if you're getting the pre-cut cantaloupe, it's pretty expensive, but if you buy a cantaloupe and cut it yourself, it's pretty cheap.
Meat is pretty expensive here though.
Whole Foods, I love.
If you go to Whole Foods, it's gonna be expensive.
The reality is that the US has the best and the worst food in the world. It's just that the best food comes at a very high price point.
And that's debatable. It is true that you guys have a lot, your guys' floor is a lot higher than ours because you have a lot of restrictions on the crappy stuff people can put on food. In America, I think because it's a very freedom-loving land, we just basically get scientists to say, how can we make this as addictive as possible and as tasty as possible, regardless of what you're putting in your body? And boom, you get super tasty chips that are destroying your gut, but they taste amazing.
Best drivers in the United States, Washington and Oregon. By and large, very polite.
No concept there, we've never been there.
Worst drivers, Nevada and Montana. And I'm sorry to say, but if you own a Ram pickup truck, you are very much in that category.
I do think that's true. Truck drivers, not truckers, but people that drive pickup trucks, man, you could be going 100 miles per hour in a 75 mile per hour speed limit zone, and they're gonna be wanting to go 10 miles per hour faster than you. Every pickup truck driver seems like that, but there is a funny graphic I've seen on Twitter where it's like every state claims they have the worst drivers. You're gonna have crappy drivers no matter where you are.
Also, I swear everyone that owns a BMW, sorry if you own a BMW, I swear everyone that owns one is always a super reckless driver.
Can't tell you how many pickup trucks have like passed me while like you're honking and showing me obscene gestures.
That's true. Also, to the obscene gesture part, I think most of us know that's probably the middle finger. One thing we looked up, which is kind of insane, is apparently in Germany it's actually illegal to flip people off. Here, that's just what you do when you're mad. So it's gotten me into some bad situations. I don't recommend doing it, but never any legal trouble. Just almost killed.
Here's a few things that I found frustrating and nice surprises in the US. So, I walk barefoot a lot of the time, and I literally got kicked out of a Starbucks for being barefoot.
I actually just saw a TikTok last night on this of some guy from Australia visiting America and saying what he found was weird to him. And he was saying how he can't walk around barefoot everywhere, which I didn't even know that was a thing at all. I certainly would not be walking around barefoot here just because, I don't know, I feel like it's not the cleanest floors in the stores.
I was reading some of the comments and someone made a good point about it kind of is more of a legal thing or a precautionary thing. So if you step on a piece of glass or a needle or something in the store, people love suing in America. I don't know how prevalent that is in Europe, how often people like to sue, but America is like the land of suing people over just anything in the world. They don't want to get sued, so I think they're covering themselves. Just culturally though, I think Americans find it kind of gross, no offense, if you're walking into a store or a place, like especially where you're eating with your feet out. Of course, if it's in sandals or something, that's a little different, but if your feet are just touching the floor, it's kind of gross. I think you just think about the person's feet becoming really dirty.
But also, it's more of like a protection thing. Like if I step on a needle with a shoe, it's protection. Also, I didn't mean that as in there's needles everywhere on the floor here. I was just giving an example.
Restaurants and cafes and shops that have like that really obnoxious no shirt, no shoes, no service sign on the front door.
I don't know if that's that obnoxious. I don't really want to see shirtless people in the stores, unless it's by the beach or something.
Yeah.
But I don't want to go eat at a nice restaurant and see some guy shirtless in there.
That was also on the Australian guy's video, that you couldn't eat in a restaurant without a shirt off.
That would really piss people off. Don't come to America and take your shirt off in a restaurant.
And then a lot of places don't allow dogs.
That's starting to open up a little more, actually. I see more and more places allowing pets. We'll let you guys find in the comments about whether you like that or not.
Here are some of the nice surprises that I had when visiting the US. So by and large, I found people in the US to be really, really, really lovely. Very friendly.
Thank you.
Really polite. Favorite thing about the US was the sheer diversity of the country. I mean, there's just so much to see. And I could pretty much wild camp in all of these amazing places.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people not from the US realize just how much diversity there is. Background or ethnicity, climate, agriculture. It's just like you can never get enough of anything. I mean, there's pockets of the country where it's like freezing cold in the winter. There's where it feels like hell. It's 100 degrees every day right now. It's desert. You can go to mountains in Colorado that are beautiful. You can find Mexican food. You can find Italian food. You can find probably French food. You can find an Irish pub. You can find just the most American thing like cheeseburgers or whatever. A mix of everything here.
You can find Cinnamon Toast Crunch Bacon at the store. We also have the hottest place on earth in California, Death Valley.
Fitting name.
Yeah.
So, back home in Europe, people sometimes make fun of Americans, saying that, oh, they're Americans, they're not very cultured, they're not very well traveled. But you know what? I completely get it now.
Thank you.
I get it. Why most Americans don't even have a passport. Everything is so far away.
Most Americans don't even get to see all of America. You have places like Alaska, that's like, you would need to plan a whole trip just to go there. Hawaii, even though that's not those aren't part of the mainland. But if you're in California, you'd have to plan a whole trip to get to Chicago or to get to New York City or to get to Miami. I mean, these are like vacations you have to plan really heavily in advance.
Also, a lot of people don't have a lot of money to go travel Europe. A plane ticket there is like, it depends on where you go, but I've seen some for over $1,000.
It easily gets over $1,000.
Yeah, and also people in Europe can travel really easily over there because countries are so close together, but New York right now, what is that, like 23 hours away from us right now?
Yeah, driving.
And a flight there is like 400. And obviously New York is also super expensive for like Airbnbs or hotels, so that's why a lot of Americans don't travel.
On the not culture thing too, more on the languages part, you guys can see we have this whole country. I'll put up a picture of what America looks like and Europe, like inside. You can just get by only knowing English. Of course, if we had tons of countries here, like you guys over there, it's like you have all these languages basically the same size of our states, like your countries. So of course you're probably gonna wanna know multiple languages. Here you guys are so far removed from us that we just know English, and then we can just talk English to everybody else from the other states.
Privilege that we can literally hop on a train or hop in the car, and within a few hours we are in a completely different country with a separate language, a different culture. But in the US, everything is so far. Even getting to the next state is a trek and a half.
Hopefully now we gave you some good insight into America. Hopefully some Americans saw this, could agree with us. Hopefully Europeans can kind of see our side more. Just that last part again. Yeah, I think a lot of Americans would like to go. There's a lot of Americans that don't care about going to Europe just because it is so huge here. And you know, at the end of the day, I think America still is kind of the pinnacle of entertainment, like the entertainment industry. Unfortunately, that's kind of like the only thing we're known for now. Every other industry has pretty much left America. But you can see why, like, politics is huge here. Politics is big in the world. We found that out through our comments that a lot of Irish people seem to know about American politics. If I went and asked, I don't even know the name of the Irish. I don't know if it's prime minister. I think you guys have a prime minister, or if it's president, I'm not sure. Most Americans don't even know that. If I went out right now and asked 20 people on the street if they knew who the Irish prime minister was, they would look at me like I'm crazy, and they'd ask me, why would I know that? Now you know why. Great video, by the way. I don't know if I said that already, but really well done video.
We would like to experience way more of Europe and travel there for a few months. So hopefully we can do that soon. Like Joey said, this was a great video, and it's cool to see a European's perspective on America, because we just went to Ireland, obviously, so we saw how it was different from America. So I think it's just cool seeing it the other way around.
Glad we got to watch it, and hopefully you guys learned some stuff from our video. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.